Hey, welcome to A Conversation With. My name is Philip DeFranco, and today we are having a conversation with Sean Evans.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. You're the, I was just saying, second comer. That's a weird fucking thing to say.
But in good company with Casey.
Yes, in good company.
Yes.
Yeah. You got to shoot it. He got to shoot it in the podcast in a hotel room. You got to shoot it at our old office with motorcycles going by, I feel like, every 10 minutes. So a little bit of an upgrade.
It is
getting there.
It's amazing to come in here, and then because I'm so early, and sorry for that, I didn't know. Cars just dropped me off places now.
Never apologize for that. I feel like we have to plan for everyone to be 15 to 45 minutes late.
Hey,
the
so sometimes they
disrespect
come
of
an
LA
hour
traffic.
early. So I just rolled in, and they were having cafeteria style lunch there, and they all have matzo ball soup, and they're having a good time. It was like it was amazing to see how in the last place you probably had 5 or 6 people working there, and then here it's a whole cafeteria. It was amazing.
Yeah, they all congregate together. They figured it out.
You have to be proud of that though.
They what?
Well, I think that my the thing that I'm probably most proud of is that, you know, when we start Hot Ones or First We Feast, or at one point that's a meeting room that's 2 or 3 people, and then sometimes you look around and you're like, wow.
Yeah,
You've really added a lot to the tribe.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely a part of me when it was like we started adding more bodies, it started feeling more real, and like, oh, okay. But I think I just get happy when I see people enjoying working with one another. I think that's
Because it's a cool job. All these internet jobs are cool jobs.
well, and it's just, yeah, I mean, but with there being so many and so many people are young, it's very easy to just like take it for granted. And I don't know, I love when you see people just like, oh, I've noticed it's definitely a thing with the editors, because I guess out here it's such a thing for editors to be freelance. Like, it's just a very big freelance industry, and we only do full hires. And so just, I think they're the people that appreciate the jobs the most.
Yeah, 'cause they get some bennies or something. But I always tell our editor Colin, I'm like, you're so lucky you have this job. Because if you're an editor, you could be editing anything together. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're so lucky that you have this job.
At this one, yeah.
Colin, don't forget it.
You could be looking at sad, horrible news every day.
Exactly.
It is a mentally exhausting thing, though, for them. That's why,
for sure.
That's why you bring them on, give them benefits, because they might need it. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. For someone that somehow does not know who you are, what you do, how would you describe that in like 30 seconds?
I would say that I host an interview show, Hot Ones, where we interview celebrities over increasingly spicy chicken wings. That's easy. Snap that in. That makes sense. And then
So many jobs. So that
also Hot Ones, the game show, where we take your everyday person. And this is, I think, the connection that I'd make, because they're obviously 2 different shows. One's a classic interview show over spicy wings. The other a classic game show over spicy wings. But I think the thing that works about Hot Ones is we take a celebrity, somebody whose status is by definition an unobtainable lifestyle, and then take them down to something everybody understands. That's dying on spicy food. You know, you can relate to then that person
Sure.
being knocked down those pegs. And then for the game show, it's taking your everyday person and then exalting them, making them a hero through spicy wings. So in one show, we use spicy wings to knock our guests down. And then in the other show, we use spicy wings to pick them up.
It's always between you and the Joe Rogan podcast. It's the most interesting thing of like, if I get stopped for a reason that's not my show, seeing the fans, because your guys are always like, dude, to the hero aspect, it's like, I can't believe you just fucking did that double dab. And I was like, and I want to be like, well, they're really cold. And it was actually a lot easier because I covered my stomach in Pepto-Bismol.
Right.
Like, I was prepped. And then Joe Rogan just has a crazy audience, but just seeing, it's kind of cool for me to see people that know me just from like a small stint, and the stickiness of that. Like, there are people that, for better or worse, right, whether it be a DJ Khaled or someone that just like fucking crushed on your show,
Right.
Just like, I wonder how many times for those, because I saw even there was like a Desus and Mero clip recently where
Right.
you guys came up.
Yeah, David Letterman was with Desus and Mero, and he was
That's what it
like,
was, yeah.
I gained respect for you guys watching you eat the hot wings, or admiration watching you eat the hot wings, which was surreal for us. I love Letterman. He's like a hero of mine. But then the fact that David Letterman watched Desus and Mero Hot Ones is absurd on multiple levels. And then, but I do think that's interesting, the fans, because I've gotten in this habit now when people are like, they want a picture or say hi or whatever, is asking them what their favorite episode is. And then that's how you see the lens through which so many people watch Hot Ones, because there are people that are watching it because they're interested in the film that's coming out featuring this person, or the album that's featuring this person, or they're a fan of whoever's being featured. But then there are some people who are watching every episode and judging it solely on how famous person fill in the blank handles their spice and handles their heat.
They take it as a contest.
Yeah, like I could go out and I was at some wing event in Chicago, and like old dads are coming up to me and I'm like, "What's your favorite episode?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I love the Issa Rae episode." And in my head, I'd be like, "That is not who I was not expecting this person to say Issa Rae." And I was like, "Yeah, classic interview." And they'd be like, "Oh, interview's okay, but the way she handled those wings, And then I'm like, "Oh, okay." Some people are watching this as a straight up sport, and then using the performance and comparing it to all the other past guests, and like that's what they get out of the show. Which
I love that.
Whatever,
dude. What's your fucking life like right now? Because I know that we said you have the game show, you have the main show on First We Feast. You're shooting ads. You're on Fallon, which I think is really interesting, because I feel like the last time you were on the show, you kind of talked about that the late night format was kind of getting old, and you even kind of hinted at it's going to need to evolve. And all of a sudden, I see your ass on there. How many times now?
I've done Fallon 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. So it's like, 1, what's your life like having to run around, and then 2, what's that experience been like?
I'm definitely, the last 3 months have been the busiest 3 months of my life, because we went from production, season 10 Hot Ones, then we shot the entire game show in 10 days. There's a lot of work in the lead up to that. But
how many episodes?
20 episodes. And that includes a weekend. So it was really like 6 work days.
Yeah.
And churned out 20 episodes. And that's what's amazing about game shows, is they kind of end and then they mop the floor and then bring in the next group. So that was just hammering it out. But it was super busy. And then, you have the holidays, you come back, and then we're right into production again on season 11, doing the promo and stuff. So I'm definitely, last 3 months have been the busiest 3 months of my life. When I think about this trip here, it's like, we shoot Fallon last week, and then you red eye that night, land, shoot the next morning with somebody, do press the next day, because you have to fill out these various media days for, like, whether it's the game show or the new Hot Ones episodes that are coming out, shoot the next day. All the while you're writing that run of show into the middle of the night, waking up early in the morning. So it's been crazy, but so rewarding and productive when you think about all the stuff that's shot, and at least it's behind you. Sometimes you can look forward at those things and it's such a hill, and you're like, all right, once I get done with that, I'm leaving this whole thing. I'm leaving the internet or whatever.
What for the game show, is that more fun for you because you don't have to do the level of research that I know you guys have to do? Yeah,
it's different. I mean, the way that I'd look at it is, Hot Ones, the web show, is my baby. I'm obsessed with it. I'm in love with it. But I would say that the difference was this is the game show. It's so meticulous, and the way that we're writing out the run of show and the exhaustive research and all of that stuff. And then even the way we shoot it, it's like it's shot in my garage with 6 people there. It's so small. It's so bare bones. But then the game show is in this huge Pepperdome that seats, 350 people. On the production, there's 100 boots on the ground. It's so big. So the way that I kind of compare to, like, the way that I was thinking about it was, it's like if you're an artist and the web show is like crafting the album, or like being in the studio, and then each one of those episodes in a season is like a track, and then you can like look back in the season as that being like the Hot Ones album. The game show is very much the concert or the tour, whereas fans screaming and going nuts. And we shot it in Atlanta, and one of the nicest things I'd hear from people was that they're like, if you shoot a show in LA, they're all just like seat fillers. They're regulars. They're like people that show up at the horse track every day to gamble. They're jaded and they've had it. But he's saying in Atlanta, like, everybody was wearing a Hot Ones shirt. They were all fans. They were all like screaming, like throwing bottles for me to sign and stuff like that. So it was a rewarding experience in a totally different way than the web show. But that's how I'd compare it. It was like being on stage, having fun, actually reaching out and touching the fans. Cause we're in a room like this and it's just going up to the internet, and you can lose that sort of physical connection with fans. Like, obviously a lot of people watch it. You see the views, you see the subscribers, you see like the active engagement.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nice to actually be in a place surrounded by fans and talk to them.
So if you had to choose between two babies, all things remain the same, pay, level of exposure, fame, all that, which one would you do
Well, I think
for the next 5 years?
that's where it's a good question, because to me, I'm an interviewer first, and that's how I got into this. That's the only reason anybody's paying attention to me, is because of the interviews and the hot sauce. So to me, that's what I'm in love with. That's my passion. But I always grew up being like, I want to host a game show. Like the showbiz dream that I had was big set, lights, camera, action sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I always pay attention to the jobs that no one ever leaves. And no one ever leaves game shows. People just work there for 65 years. Where everywhere else they get burned out, go do something else, whatever. But game shows, people don't leave. And I understand why. I kind of get why. Because, they're so much fun. They're so rewarding. You're around your fans. It's a crazy, raucous environment. At one point, we had this game that ended in in the last second. The place exploded like somebody hit a buzzer beater.
Yeah.
It's just so fun and rewarding. And then you can shoot like a year's worth of them in like fucking a week.
See, that's the thing that's appealing. When I find out someone else knocks out 2 weeks of content or a week of content in one day, and then they're like, but keep it a secret. I'm like, I want your model, because the fact that I wake up every morning and not knowing what's going to happen. So I definitely see the appeal. So out of game shows, and maybe it's one that you grew up on, is there?
But I should say that the interview show.
You hate the interview show.
I
completely.
Can't stand it. Can't wait to get. No, that's the thing for me. Like, that's what I'm in love with. I'm obsessed with that body of work right now in a way that's, I should be in an institution or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to ruin the word, and you probably wouldn't be accepting of it, but like the catalog that you have, like it's iconic. Like it's just huge people in ways that you wouldn't have seen them otherwise. And I think that's, for me, if I was in your shoes, that would probably be the thing that'd be the most stressful. I saw that you talked about, like, it's always like, who's the next big whale, right? Keanu Reeves, people like that. But at some point, is it like, do you fucking run out of people? I don't know.
Well, we do think about that sometimes. I think the good thing is that celebrity is always evolving, and who somebody is going to want to see in the seat is going to change so much week to week. And, I do feel like there's a lot of, it's not, we haven't totally hit all the marks that we want to hit. And so there's still a lot of work to be done. But yeah, at some point you do look, and you're like, wow, 200 episodes, or the expectations that people are going to have for your guest list at some point, like that bar gets so high that it's untenable or impossible to meet people's expectations. But
yeah,
so far the good thing is enjoying the process so much. This is what I've kind of gotten in the headspace of doing, is just making the thing and putting it out, and then whatever happens after that happens after that. But just totally focusing on the process of making the thing and then putting it out, making the thing and then putting it out.
Yeah, what I've found myself doing more and more, especially because it's like you guys, everyone's consuming so fast, is I actually sometimes just go back to older episodes, because it's also wild to think some of the people that you've had on, like Key and Peele, before the big pop.
Yeah,
like
they
even
were
bigger
the big pop.
Yeah, at that point, which is crazy. A question I had though, what is the energy like with Shia LaBeouf in the room? Because that seems exciting.
Yeah. Well, there are certain episodes. One of the things that we take pride in is taking somebody who's maybe been run through it in the media and then presenting them in a completely different way. But I'm like everybody else. I'm just watching whatever comes up, or like watch it. So with Shia LaBeouf, there is a part of you that's like, what are we gonna get? And I don't really get starstruck, but when somebody walks into the room for the first time, when I see them for the first time, it doesn't matter who it is, I do get the butterflies a little bit. And so with Shia, just because you don't know what to expect with him or how he's going to play or whatever, and it is a playful show, or at least you hope it'll be. And we do have to draw it up in a very specific way, where we're maybe like taking what we hope the video will look like and then reverse engineering that to a certain degree. while also playing a choose your adventure within each wing based on how the person's reacting to the whole experience. But I knew immediately that it was going to be an amazing episode because he'd already watched a bunch. He already like knew about the show, and then he's popping the top on the first one. So I'm like,
Talking about Tom Hardy, I was like amazed by that story.
he's in here. Yeah, he's in. And it's like he came down to. I mean, the way that we always think about it is we want to make it the most comfortable, least comfortable interview show. So it's this disarming nature of the hot sauce combined with these thoughtful career spanning questions, hopefully putting them in a position where they feel comfortable. Like we're not really clickbaiting or doing any of that bullshit. Like we really think that we can create attention without those things, maybe in part because we're serving up the spiciest chicken wings ever to very high profile famous people. But there's no real reason to have your guard up, which maybe sounds counterintuitive with what we serve for dinner, but otherwise,
well, I think it's like you've said elsewhere, and what we've talked about. It's like you're in it together, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a buddy cop movie. It's a shared struggle.
What? So I mean, because you've interviewed so many people, and kind of what you were hitting on is really like an emotional balance of the guest. Is there a trick to de-escalating a situation with a guest if it's gotten like, what have you found? I mean, you can use a specific example. Or...
Yeah, I'm trying to think of times, but I think that an edge that I have, I think, is the body language feel. I feel like maybe my sense of empathy is stronger than the everyday, like the average person or something. Like if I had some sort of interview superpower, it's that. So I can always see that, but we do try to head that off even in the research process, because when we're watching these things, I really feel like I can watch something and I can tell the nerves that it's hitting just by looking at the person and how they're sort of reacting to things. And the other side is I can kind of see when they want to keep talking about something. Yeah. So that, to me, those are the nuggets that we try to find, especially that sort of like, they're almost to the itch that I want them to scratch, but not quite there. We do a good job of recognizing that and then being like, all right, well, how can we mastermind something around that allows them to like let that thing out?
Sure.
But I guess on a de-escalation level, ultimately, it's not like we're interviewing heads of state or anything. They're celebrity interviews. So by nature, it's not like, oh, we really have to get to the bottom of this thing.
Yeah. Explain the policy.
Yeah, exactly. There's no, I don't feel any sense of real responsibility when I'm interviewing a celebrity.
You hit him with that one right at, wait, do you still do the bomb?
Yeah.
So right at the bomb.
Yeah,
they take a bite.
Then they can't
explain the policy.
Exactly. And we're not letting you out until you do that. So the thing that I've found is, all right, it's not like you have to push a line of questioning necessarily. Like if you're not going to get anything out of it, you're not going to get anything out of it. And the harder you press, especially when you're also asking them to eat scorching hot chicken wings, I don't think it's like a good show if I'm drilling the celebrity on like some sort of hot button issue while they're choking down scorching hot chicken wings. And I don't think it's necessarily that important. But the big thing is this. I think that I walk into interviews and being like, I can either give things or I don't have to give things, depending on the how smart the questions I'm being asked are, or like if I have any confidence that the person I'm talking to is going to turn this into like a thing that our fans are going to read and they'll be able to sink their teeth into certain things and get more of a sense of the show. So when I sit down with people and they're good at what they do and they've tried and they're doing something, then you can be a little bit more generous with what you give up. And I think that that's true across the board. So it's like, it all just starts in being prepared in the interview, trying to be smart. And then if you present that to them in a way that connects with them, and that goes even down to like the rhythm and syntax that we use with the questions, then maybe they'll give you more because they understand that it's not just some fleeting thing or something that we really care about it. So hopefully the guest will meet us halfway on that. But even if they don't, we'll extend further for them.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed is each interview, it's like 80% the same and the rest is this weird little dance. Like it's of like sometimes really trying to get something out of someone. What I've personally found is my hardest thing is getting something out of like a daily vlogger, because their whole shtick has been to overshare everything.
Right.
And so as you start getting into questions like, what's a hobby that no one knows you have? It's like, well, I've overshared literally every aspect of my life. So nothing.
Right.
Enjoy that.
No, there are certain nuts that are tough to crack that
Yeah.
way. I think like athletes are a tough nut to crack because
I imagine that has to be so much media training of just like, don't fuck up.
exactly, because
Yeah.
too, they don't need to trade off of their personality and entertainment. They just need to hit the home run or make the basket or catch the ball. So they're like, all you can do is fuck my money up. You know,
Yeah, this can really only go bad for me.
exactly. So as
Yeah.
long as I swerve everything by 100 feet, then we're okay. But that makes it a tougher nut to crack for sure.
Yeah, teamwork, responsibility,
Hey, we
work ethic.
left it all out there on the field.
That's how we should do interviews from now on. Just completely answer the question I want to answer.
That's what I'm trying to get to the point where you just pull a string.
You're like, I don't care about hot wings anymore. Actually, kind of, you talked about head of state, and I know that we talked about it a little bit. Is there a world, if you could figure out how to make it work, that you would have someone? I mean, it's 2020.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be president.
Yeah.
Is there a world where someone comes on?
Yeah. I mean, to me, philosophically, this is, and we've had a million conversations about this internally, but the way that I look at it is this. I do think that because it's permeated like every part of pop culture to a point that it's just so loud and heavy. And in a lot of ways, I think the escapism of Hot Ones has helped Hot Ones. But there also comes a point where now we've done 10 seasons, 200 episodes, like whatever, like we could do whatever we want. And then you also kind of can't always just turn a blind eye to what's going on all the time, or you can't just ignore it. So to us, with 2020 coming up, I think like every campaign, you know, I don't want to, I'm not like totally on in every meeting and every email and whatever, but I think every major campaign has reached out to us. So the way that we look at it is Hot Ones is sort of a de facto cosign. We're both eating these wings together. I don't want to just lionize one politician because for whatever reason. So to us, it's like there have to be more voices involved than maybe just the one. Let me ask you a question going off script. Just taking this detour. Which candidate, because this is the other side, is it can be so annoying on the internet. Like even if we are talking to somebody who does political commentary, like Trevor Noah or something,
Sure.
you just put out the episode, even
follows.
if you don't even mention Trump, it gets so annoying. Like people are so annoying, whether it's like on Twitter, like, you know, whatever. Like if you just touch politics from like even from a distance, even like sort of like if it's in your peripheral, people just get so worked up. And then you wonder, is it worth the static? Who is, you know, like if you had Donald Trump on an episode of Hot Ones, it would just be apocalyptic in the way that it's received. And then same with Hillary Clinton.
Well, I see. So this is why I say that I think.
So then I'm like, who get, like, why even do it?
I think the only way that you could do it is whoever the Democratic nominee ends up being, you have to have them and Trump on Truth or Dab. That's the only. It's the only way you don't get the preferential treatment. But I mean, because honestly, I mean, you could have like, if you look at well received on the internet people, like definitely like a Yang or a Bernie, right?
Right. That's what I
because it's
think
like
about.
It's like if they whoever rolls through on Joe Rogan, probably fair game as
has
far
like
as
sort of an
reception.
internet cosign.
But
in
I understand what you're saying as far as like all of a sudden people would say this is like almost a de facto endorsement, right?
Exactly,
In a way.
exactly.
But I think if let's say whoever the nominee ends up being, right? Because I don't know, you guys shoot so far in advance.
Sometimes.
You're like, sometimes it's like, oh,
flip
fuck.
that shit like week of, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Any this season?
Well, it depends. Like to us, we're always, you know, it's the opportunity that presents itself. But you have things that go sideways, like where, you know, you'll be like, oh, you know, I'm pretty sure this is gonna land. Let's plan on this landing, and then it doesn't land, and then the next day, a guest that you're supposed to have in comes down with the stomach flu and can't do Hot Ones, And then you're like, oh, like 2 things we were kind of banking on fell through, and we don't have an episode for 96 hours away. Like we got to start banging the phones, you know?
Yeah.
That's like, that happened. That's how we got the Jeff Goldblum episode. Honestly, like we had like a finale, and the person that we were going to have on the finale canceled day of. And we were like, okay, well now we don't have, like, we've been like billing the finale, and now we like don't even have a guest. And Jeff Goldblum had, he'd flirted with us before. So we were like, explained our situation, how we were in dire straits over here. And if you just have, we'll pull up in your garage if you need us to. Then he came through for us. But sometimes it's like that. I think 2 or 3 times a season, we get squeezed in a way that makes us nervous. But right now, you know, we just launched the first episode with Margot Robbie. And I think we've shot half the season so far, which is nice. I feel at ease right now. But usually we do not have a bank that's that built up. We're always kind of chasing and shaping the season while it's happening.
Okay. I feel like that can be fun, but also so stressful depending on how close you get.
Yeah. And there's definitely times where it gets very stressful, especially now because the audience expectations and that bar is so high.
Yeah.
So you not only have to like make sure that you're drilling every Thursday at 11 a.m., but then also to the expectations of that, you know?
But yeah, I stand by truth or dab. If you, cause yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
If you do
And
have,
we would do that.
if you do have one on at a time, you'll either be called like super snowflake or a fascist.
Yeah.
So just bring them on together.
I think that that would work, and I'd be down for that. So assuming that we
Fuck
could
a
get
CNN town hall, man.
a sitting president and the challenger in for truth or dab, I think
Just-
like that's automatic.
You hit up Trump's campaign. You're like, yo, you can make them look like a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, and then you say the same thing to the other side.
I know, but you do think about that. Like if there's a health scare or something, like that is the good way to do. Hot ones is a good way to prove.
Every wing's gonna have to have like a small bite taken out because they're like, you got to make sure he's not poisoning.
Yeah. Well, I always think about that too. Yeah. Like if we had a sitting president on, they would probably like send Secret Service to like.
Yeah, they'd have to, right?
Right, watch Chris toss the wings. You
got to do that just so you can come back on and explain what the fuck that was.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I just wanted to take a second to thank one of the sponsors of today's podcast, Conversation With, Keeps. And with Keeps, it helps you stop your hair loss before it's too late with their scientific and affordable approach. Their treatments are up to 90% effective at reducing and stopping further hair loss, and they say prevention is key. And you also don't have to go broke to avoid going bald. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. So in fact, some of you may have actually tried them before, but probably never at this price. And so if you're noticing you're losing hair, do something about it. For a limited time, you can go to keeps.com/ACW or click the link in the description to get your first month of treatment for free. So check it out, enjoy. But with that said, back to your podcast.
So Sean, something I did last week, because this definitely wasn't shot the same day that James Charles was here, was a job interview question, or a few job interview questions. Because at this point in your life, even if Hot Ones went away, you're probably good or staying in the space in some way. You're not going to a regular job, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I'll go back to the copywriting cubicle or anything.
You're like that was a good run, I guess.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you some questions, like if you were interviewing for a job.
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna redo some, but then give you some other ones because I'm interested in how you're definitely gonna answer different than James Charles. Are you more of a hunter or a gatherer?
I would say that I'm a hunter. I'm
Why?
a hunter. I think that well, you know what it is that I'm driven by the opportunity, you know? So I think I see the opportunity, whether that's the deer walking in the grass or the whatever, you know, like that's what I am. I'm going out and I'm seeking out the trophy, the hunt, the kill. I'm definitely, you know, I can't, but you know what, in my day to day, here's me like losing the job. I am a homebody guy, you know? I'm a gatherer, you know, I rack up that seamless bill, you know, like nobody seamless is like me. So in that way I am, you know, I can't bill myself as somebody who's just like out there with the Rambo Blamas fucking but killing my dinner all the time. But I think professionally I'm a hunter.
So professionally. So for you, is it then the experience?
Well, I think that if
or is it more the trophy after the fact?
I think it's the control is the very much the sort of like, I need to do this exactly how I want to do this. I don't trust anybody else's work or expertise.
Yeah. Control. Well, I don't want to say control freak, but yeah, control is definitely the
though.
key word that
Yeah.
I always hear from people. 2, softer question. You're a new addition to a crayon box. What color would you be and why?
Ooh.
Dude, I would just leave this job interview.
Yeah,
I'd
I
be
know.
like,
Whenever you see
what
those
is
job
this?
interviews, yeah, but like, I would be all right. Fine. I'm just closing my eyes and I see myself as a blue crayon. The reason being is I appreciate colors like orange. I like bold colors, but I wouldn't describe myself that way. I don't think of myself that way. And then I'm not like I'm not a gray. I'm not, I'm somewhere in between. So to me, blue makes sense. I'm special, but also I'm not too special.
It
I'm
sounds
not
like
standing out.
It sounds like you're saying your personality. You're like an accent color. You go along with something.
Yeah.
Something that pops.
Exactly.
But
I don't want to pop.
You want people to look at here, but you're like right there.
Yeah, and that's like even like Hot One's kind of like that. Like I don't really think of myself as like in the spotlight on stage entertainment guy.
See, you said something similar last time, and I agree and disagree. I don't think that it would be the same. I think you can credit the concept to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, for me, I'm also a little bit of a numbers guy, and like if you look at First We Feast, like you can have more people on Truth or Dab, you can have other things, but people are there for not just your concept, but you. I think.
Thank you, Phil. I hope that's true.
You're like, for whatever next negotiation you have, I also hope that is true as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Let's see. We have, I don't know if we talked about this. I know last time you were on the podcast, we shared that shirtless pic of you, but we didn't go this far back. What were you like in high school?
I played sports, like played baseball, played football. I feel like the thing that's helped me out is I was pretty chameleon like. I could talk to any table in the cafeteria sort of thing. So
what's the trick to that? Did it just come naturally? Like when you enter a conversation, what's the hope for you? Like outside of a job interview?
It's a good question. I mean, I think the interview thing fits sort of naturally because this is maybe going like deep, but I remember being like a little kid and looking at my shirt and being like, I have to stare at my shirt. Like, how is everybody so comfortable just wearing a shirt and like knowing their shirt? And so like maybe there was a part of me that felt a little uncomfortable in my own skin. So I think that by talking to people and like getting them to talk about themselves, maybe that kind of would take the attention off of me in a way, because I'm kind of getting them to do their thing.
Interesting. So do you feel like it was more a deflection rather than like a wanting to feel more connected to someone?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm psychoanalyzing myself and I don't have the schooling to do that, but yeah, if I'm just armchair psychoanalyzing myself, then yeah, I think it's a deflection on some level.
That's interesting because I've definitely just outside of this because even like when I say like I'm learning how to talk to people again, this isn't how you do it.
Like, this is the only way to do it.
This is the only way I know how to talk. No, but like the prospect of going somewhere, meeting someone new, trying to stir up a conversation, unless that person has like a really interesting job, that seems like a nightmare to me.
Right.
Just because I end up thinking and I hate that I'm of this mindset because it's more end result oriented. I'm like, what's the best way? Like, what are they going to tell me that's just going to blow my fucking mind?
Right.
Like, because at least if I'm talking to like a doctor or someone in real estate or someone that has just a unique job compared to like my life experience, great. Because that's whenever I walk into a conversation, I'm like, okay, I need to walk away. It's either one
You
or
have
two
to
things.
build out your exit strategy before you go.
Well, it's a little
in.
of the exit strategy, but I'm like, I just want to leave with something. Like, but even like with this, like kind of the idea of talking to people as a deflection. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, no, maybe it's messed up, but yeah, but I think
It's worked out though.
yeah, definitely. But I think that if I think back on why or how I do remember at like an early age being like, okay, well, if I can just get people to talk about themselves, they seem to enjoy doing that.
Well, I think that's one of the, if you listen to, God, is it something boss? I don't know. It's like FBI negotiators. Their whole big thing is people will think that you're interesting if you get them to talk about themselves. Where you say, it's like those stupid little tricks where it's, you just say in a questioning tone the last few things that you said. So like when you said like it's deflection.
It's
Deflection?
deflection. You say deflection?
Yeah,
deflection.
deflection. And then you're like, yeah. So it's like, shit like that. But then that doesn't feel like talking to a person. That feels like I'm just trying to chameleon my way through.
Yeah,
life.
but then if you're psychoanalyzing yourself even more, you're like, wait, am I actually even trying to get anything out of this, or am I just like am I just such a coward that I'm just trying to put the blanket over myself and just get them to, who knows? Who knows? Who knows how deep and how disgusting a place this goes?
We're all humans are horrible. That's the main thing that we've learned. I'm going to go into some questions that we didn't get to last time. God, I feel just the premise. I feel stupid saying it. A penguin walks through the door right now wearing a sombrero. What does he say and why is he here? What interview is this? What job interview?
Yeah, where'd you pull these? If he's wearing a sombrero, but he's a penguin, what does he say? I don't know if he said something like if he says anything.
I guess it's not the
He'd be
weirdest
like-
thing that he would talk in this scenario
Right.
because
Well,
you're like, already seems unlikely.
yeah. Well, he would be lost. He would just be like, how do you get back on the 101 from here?
I like that. I think we're gonna have some actual psychologists go through and be like, so what that means when Sean says that? Ooh, okay. If you were to get rid of one state in the United States, what would it be and why?
People are going to be mad at me. But like just make it its own thing, or like it falls into the ocean.
It falls into the ocean.
Like I feel like Texas doesn't like. I feel like Texas could be its own thing, or like kind of.
I was like, I would go with something with a smaller population.
No. I like Texas. I love Texas, but I don't feel like Texas even like Texas wants to be Texas. Like they don't want to be like. I feel like they want to be their own thing, and I think I'd be okay with that.
Okay, so you just mean they follow through. They become their own country.
Yeah, they're like their own. Exactly, they're their own sovereign nation. Is Texas, but that's me just walking a tightrope.
Texas, yeah, I will say Texas and California are different in that way too. Let's say like a Florida. I forget what comedian said it, but it was like Florida could vote between like ass cancer and a bologna sandwich, and bologna sandwich would win 51-49.
Right.
And I was just like, yeah, Florida doesn't know what it is.
It's its own weird thing. But then I always think every place is kind of now. I feel like every state is its own vibe and its own thing and its own. Florida's definitely weirder, and then Texas and California are probably out there a little bit more, like have their own sort of identity or something. Same with New York.
outside of let's say, because you're originally from Chicago, is that right?
Yeah.
Outside of going back to Chicago, what's like your favorite place to be?
Yeah, I like coming out to California. I spend a lot of time here, but whenever I get time off, I go to Malibu, If I ever get that long weekend, that's where I go. And then you go to like a hotel where you can open the back door to the ocean and sort of like fall asleep to the ocean crashing. That to me is that's where I find the balance, the zen.
Would that be like if you retired or whatever the hell that looks like these days?
Yeah.
Is that Malibu? You're just
Hell
like, yes,
yeah.
right on the ocean.
But you know what else I like? I like upstate New York, sort of like bed and breakfasty places, like in the hills with the mist and the trails and stuff like that. I like national parks. I like, where was I? We were doing this like road trip to San Francisco and spent some time in San Luis Obispo, and like you like rent out some old like mill house or something. But then on the inside, I do need like modern conveniences. Like I want to feel like out in the woods, but like be able to get room service. Like that's where that's my sweet spot.
You want to? Would that be like glamping plus?
That's what I want. Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
my vibe. So that's what I like to do. Like if I get time off, like that's the type of thing I like to do.
Yeah, I think I don't know about. So I've never actually gone camping, but as far as like other place I would move, probably be New York. Going back, because I never got to really experience the energy as an adult.
Yeah.
And every time I visit, I'm just like, I could fuck with this.
Yeah, and things can change like that. I remember the first time I went to New York, I had to turn around and go right back to Illinois. So I was just like, oh, this place is the worst. And then when I went back, most recently, whatever, like 6-7 years ago, I really treated it like I was going to jail or something. I was like, I'm doing 2 summers and 2 winters, and then I'm getting out. You know, like I had to kind of like put it out that way.
Yeah.
But then now I find if I travel someplace, it's hard for me to adjust going to other cities. Like,
In what way?
because you could like land in Portland and go to the hotel and like hit the bar and they'll be like, all right, last call. And then you'll check your watch and it'll be like 11:15 p.m. or something. Or in New York, you can always get a Gatorade or a slice of pizza on any block at 4 o'clock in the morning, whether it's like a Tuesday or whatever, you know, but like no other place is like that. And so now I find that like that I've spent so much time in New York, it's so hard for me to adjust going to other cities.
Yeah, going somewhere where it's like
Where before I used to, like I'd hate the idea of even going there, spending a weekend there or whatever. And then now I kind of love it.
yeah.
New York grows on you.
Oh, well, yeah, I could see that. Like, it's just there's an energy that shit's getting done.
Yeah.
Like that's my favorite thing about it. But yeah, the thinking about kind of one, what you're talking about with the traveling so much, essentially time traveling, where you're just in constantly lost. It's weird to me thinking back to, I'm like, oh yeah, it was a normal thing for me in Florida that on Sundays it was like, you can't get alcohol in this like certain area, and everything in this particular area closed at 9. I'm like, why? I was like, cause that's the way we've done it. Great. Fuck you.
Right. Yeah. Whereas New York, there's so much competition, or I don't know what it is, or it's just lawless or whatever. But they do meet you halfway if you're just like just a dude who needs something at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I just wanted to take a second to thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of A Conversation With, DoorDash. And DoorDash, if you don't know, has something for every lifestyle. Busy day at work and forgot your lunch? Order pick up and pass the line. Trying to figure out an easy way to split the bill with all your friends getting exactly what they want? They make it easy with group ordering. DoorDash is more than just delivery. With them, you'll never have to worry about your next meal. And the best part is right now, our listeners get $5 off their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code DeFranco. And with DoorDash, ordering is so easy. You just open up the app, choose what you want to eat, and your food will be delivered to you wherever you are. And for me, it's been a lifesaver. Whether I'm at home with the boys, I don't want to go through the hassle and whole ordeal of getting them situated to get in the car, to go to the place, to stay still. And no, it's just easy. And it comes to me, it's on my terms. Or if I'm late for work and I want to get a breakfast, boom, done. And with DoorDash, you have variety, you have choices. With door-to-door delivery in all 50 US states, Puerto Rico, Canada, and Australia, that's 4,000 cities in total. You can order from your favorite local pizza place or one of the other over 300,000 restaurant partners featured on the app. So check it out, enjoy. Remember, $5 off your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and you enter in code DeFranco. That's D-E Franco. Boom. Nailed it. Back to the podcast.
How are you doing? I know that the last time you were on, once again, we looked at that photo. You said
Yeah,
you felt like
yeah.
a piece of shit now. Are you able to still do it with the crazy schedule?
Yeah, except I think like what ends up happening is I'm so like in the lead up to the fucking game show, because I'm like, what, I'm gonna be on TV or whatever.
Yeah.
So like in those 6 weeks, I was running 4 miles a day every day, eating good, probably eating more because I was like working out so much, but I was just like, that shit's gotta be like tight for the fucking game show, or like, if I'm gonna have to, and because, I end up in this thing where sometimes I'll see these editors like at Complex, like everybody's fucking editing I see my face everywhere, like,
Yeah.
from like the,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's like I'm constantly like hearing my voice and like seeing my face and whatever, to the point that it's like, if something's bothering you about you, this is a weird job in which you're like constantly confronted with it. So I didn't want that with the game show. So I was like, I'm locking this down. Like any little thing that I don't like about, I'm just tightening it up and getting the jawline and everything.
Yeah.
And so then that happens, and then you execute it, and then you have the holidays or whatever, and you give yourself a longer leash there. And then, but I think where I end up in trouble is when it gets so busy and we're bouncing back and forth between the coasts so much, because then your sleep is all fucked up. And then on top of that, you're like eating out of an airport, or like you're always on the run, or like you're in a hotel or something. So you have no like, all right, I'm going to the gym. Plus you're busy. So it's like, but there's no like rhythm, sort of like, all right, I'm going to wake up at 7. I'm going to go to the gym at 7:40. I'm going to go to the office. Like there's the salad spot on the corner. Like I'll go, like there's no rhythm to it. You're just kind of like surviving every hour or whatever. So like that's when I'm like sometimes I land back in New York after doing that a bunch of times. I'm like, all right, I gotta get my shit back together.
Yeah, it feels like for TV, I need to either add 30 or lose 60. like I need to just pick a lane.
Yeah,
Because the
yeah,
in-between shit's It's like, because I feel like that's where like the comments come in.
That's it. But I think like this. I think I'm not a good, like the way I'll put it on, it'll be like it's all on my fucking neck.
Is that how you
like,
put it on now?
Yeah. I think that's just like, yeah, like how I put it on is just like all on my fucking neck. So
Like, I love the idea of like no spare tire, just fucking like frog-esque.
yeah, that's where I have to address, or like that's the problem. So like I know I can take care of that if I just hammer cardio, and then I do like it. Like in the same way that you'll be like, oh, there's like certain tangible way that's like touching and affecting my life. Like I do get when I'm running a lot, get a meditative experience out of just hitting the miles with the headphones in, and when I'm in good shape and I have my lungs and just being able to go that extra mile and it feel just like good and freeing and feeling good about myself, and then not feeling bad about then like sitting on my ass watching college basketball. Like as long as I do the good thing, then I can give myself a break on the bad thing.
I want to see that's okay. So that's, I was joking about 30 to 60. I want to get to the level of healthy that I finally understand what the fuck a runner's high is. Cause at 2 miles, I just want to breathe.
Yeah.
It's not, and my body goes like, nah, you're good though.
Yeah, my relationship with running though is like it's always been a thing because it keeps you so accountable, because it's like if you do it every single day, it gets easier every single day. And then if you don't do it, it gets a little bit harder. Like every day that you don't do it, it gets a little harder. So it keeps you so accountable, and then you can like work yourself, especially, you know, I smoke a lot of weed. So like, you know, like when you think about your lungs and stuff, I'm like, all right, well, if I run every single day, I can build my lungs and keep my lungs. But then if I don't for 30 days, whatever I built to, even if it took me to a year, is gone.
When you say like you're a weed guy, are you like someone that's like, yeah, so for this I have like a sativa, and this one I do an indica. And
that's what's great is like now with how it's being offered, like especially in California, you can become a wine guy with weed. Like I think you had to be like super weed guy back in the day, you know,
yeah.
to be able to like know strains and stuff. But now you don't. Now it's so accessible. You can just walk in and read about all the different stuff. So I do find things that I'm into, you know, like the Maui Wowie I'm into, you know, I'm like, whereas like I was just having a great time at Disneyland on it. And I'm okay, this is be like, kind of like experiential, like out in the sun doing fun stuff sort of thing. And it was giving a little I was laughing more. I was smiling more. I was having a better time. And I'm like, okay, for this type of experience, this is what I need. Whereas like an indica just knocks me out. So if I need to sleep, like that's the thing. So I'm finding how I can insert these things into my life in certain ways.
Yeah. Whenever
maybe is, I don't know if that's the best thing, but whatever.
I mean, that sounds like a fun experience to me. I'd be scared to do it just because I can't gauge how I'm going to feel 45 minutes. It's kind of like that thing where it's like you eat and then you're like, am I still hungry? I know I should wait. Oh, I'll keep eating. And then you accidentally, in this case, get too high. And then immediately I'm just like, get the Uber, get the Uber.
Yeah.
I don't want to be cornered by someone. But whenever anyone starts talking about it, like, oh yeah, you know, so it's a high energy sativa, and I'm like, bro, I'm just gonna go to sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
that's
because I
true.
just haven't taken care of myself, but this shit's gonna just put me to sleep, which is okay if I don't have to worry about being in public. But
yeah, people always say that, like, this is great for creativity, like whatever. I'm like, I've never smoked weed and wanted to like paint or like write a interview, you know, like that. It takes whatever motivation I have to do anything and just squashes it out. You know, so they're always like describing those sorts of things. And I see through it exactly how you do. I'm like, no, that's not what it's going to do to me. But I am finding that there is a different vibe depending on what you go with. And too, I think when you fly as much,
sure,
you know, the edibles are a great thing. So, you know, because it'd be like time travel on those cross country flights.
Oh, yeah.
Knock yourself out.
See, that's for when you were talking about the lungs. I was like, my big I saw a billboard for it where it was just, it says that it's like correct doses for edibles, and it's in the form of mints. And I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I was like, I really want to switch to that because I hate, even if it's not cigarettes, I hate actually inhaling, because then it'll sometimes mix with when I'm sick, but then I'm just like, I was only able to hold my breath for like 40 seconds. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Like, so trying to change from that. But it's also interesting when you talk about how it's changed. I remember even just 5 years ago when it was like someone like cared about weed, like they would literally, I had a buddy that would bring over a Pelican case that had a vaporizer, and I was like, this is it's equipment. It's it's too much.
You've taken this to a level.
it's not like it's all fun, but it feels like it's wrong.
Right, but now I think too, even with those edibles, and I think there was a time I remember in high school where we'd make weed brownies or whatever, and you'd have problems because the way that oil sits on the pan, maybe it can be real heavy to one side and light on the other, but then you're waiting like 2 hours to kick in, and and that would lead to some wild, scary nights.
Oh yeah.
Whereas now
Too many. Too much of an edible.
Those mints. Like Chris Schoenberger, Hot Ones creator, you know, he's not a weed guy. He doesn't smoke weed or whatever, but he's now onto the microdosing in edibles. Cause it's like, 2.5 milligrams, like on the dog walk, like the last dog walk of the night. Like I find that me and Ruggles were like on the same wavelength when that happens. It makes for nicer walks, easier sleeps. And that's his thing. Like that's his new like maker's mark on the rocks or something.
Yeah. I respect that. Edibles are rough. The first time I ever tried edibles, like everyone else, well, like 90% of people had too much. And I was just like stuck in bed, kept feeling like I was going to have a heart attack just because I could feel my heart.
Yeah, like I'm going to die.
And then I'll always remember Grey's Anatomy came on, and it was that episode where they shoot up the hospital. And in my head, that shit was really happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is horrible. While I just like eat Domino's pizza. Yeah, it was horrible. Have you had any kind of bad edible experiences?
Not I've probably edible, yeah, there's been times where you're like, I'm too high, I'm in a prison of my own making sort of thing. Like I don't want to be this high, I wish I wasn't this high, and then it's a problem,
and then it just
spirals on itself.
Yeah. No, there have definitely been times where I was like, oh man, this thing's stressing me out, and then I got high, and then the thing got worse, and then I just went off.
And it starts just chasing its own tail. But like have you ever done like mushrooms or anything?
I haven't, and I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
But I stayed away from any kind of like hallucinogen, just because for a really long time, and I think it's only really changed over the last 2 years, I was kind of just nervous about a lot of the shit in my head. And I say even up to like about 2 years ago, because I feel like the biggest skill that I've gained is just keeping now more than ever, like not feeling like I have to share certain things, which are often negative. And that's the reason is like, I'm nervous that it was going to like manifest in some way. But I've heard regarding mushrooms, it's more like lines moving and good feelings and light affecting you in a different way. But that's the thing, I don't have experience with it.
One time, this is a couple years ago, me and my buddy Trent, just like on a random Sunday night, we did it, just like the tea or whatever. And we were just like goofballs, like working normal jobs and stuff, just roommates in their 20s back in Chicago. And we did it. And we were like, looked up, like, what are the best movies to watch on mushrooms? And the overwhelming favorite, like this thing that we saw pop up on like message board after message board, was Tangled.
Really?
Yeah, Tangled. And so we watched Tangled. And we were watching it in awe. Like I was like, whoa, like there's this scene where like the dam breaks and all of this like DreamWorks or I don't know, Pixar, whatever, like all that water's coming, and me and him like just looked at each other like, whoa, like this movie's amazing. Just on the edge of my seat, like eyes as wide as saucers watching Tangled. And then the next day at work, I'm like, have you guys seen Tangled? Like the water cooler talk. I'm like, Tangled is the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life. You haven't seen Tangled? You have got to see Tangled. Then I remember like a week later or something, it was one of those things where maybe he was like out with a girl and I was out, and then we kind of like the parties met back at the apartment at the exact same time. And so we're kind of like just in the kitchen talking. It's like, oh, what do you guys want to do? And we were like, have you guys seen Tangled? And then we watched Tangled sober, and I'll tell you this, not as fucking good as it is on mushrooms. We watched that, like at the end of that, we're like, wait a second, like why are we so entrapped by that the first time? So that's the power of it. Like sometimes whatever. You can go on like sort of a light thing and then
Yeah.
and watch a movie and be like, you're like, whoa, this is
But it
such an experience.
stayed positive because that scene
But-
like ends with them almost drowning, right?
Yeah,
But you
I don't know
didn't-
how
you
it
didn't
ends.
freak out.
All I know that it took me on a ride. And then, but yeah, then there are times where like if you're on like a more serious trip where it's like almost like you're going deep, you're like looking at a mirror of your own soul and stuff like that. And depending what kind of headspace you're in, I think that can go sideways.
Yeah. So
And sizing you up and knowing what I know about you, I feel like it's a coin flip on whether or not that's going sideways.
yeah. I like your odds more than what I think. I appreciate that. Would you ever do like it feels like it was like such a big trending thing several years ago and the market's still probably huge. Would you ever do like ayahuasca?
Yeah, I'm interested. I mean, I feel like I could do like anything once or whatever, but I think like the same sort of way that the mushroom thing was interesting to me, like the ayahuasca thing is interesting to me. And I've talked to people who've done it and they say things that make me more interested in it.
Yeah, I would say that for me, that's a coin flip too, just because I've talked to people that have said things that are positive, but then scared the shit out of me of just like that they saw creatures and that they're all around. And there was like essentially this whole like mythology thing that was connected to it. And I was like, dude, if we're in like the fucking Matrix,
Yeah, but that's what I always think.
I'm not Neo, dude. I'm chill.
Yeah, but I always think when sometimes I'm on mushrooms or whatever, and they do that thing where like you only use 10% of your brain or whatever. I don't know, like that. But I'm like, oh yeah, like when you do it, you're like, my brain is so much bigger than the way I use it. And like the same way that you do ayahuasca, and then all of a sudden you're like creating a religion out of your brain, out of your own brain, with like creatures around and like a whole mythology. And then you're like, wow, like what we're capable of with our minds and stuff. But, yeah, all of which is to say I'm down to do ayahuasca. Let's do it.
You're like, let's do it.
Let's do it after the pod. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Or a pod on ayahuasca.
Ooh.
Next time when I come back.
Next time. That's how we
yeah.
that's how we get the trilogy going. Did you when like regarding any sort of like drugs or drinking like that, was that all kind of later in life or was it early on for you? Because the reason I ask is for me, I grew up thinking I was straight edge, really just wasn't invited to parties.
Yeah.
And then I got to college and I had roommates and I was like, oh, drinking, this can actually be fun.
Yeah, I think the way that I would think about it is I always and still to this day kind of know when the trouble's coming. So I feel like I was responsible in high school where it was like, I'm not like, if there was like a big, huge rager, then I would not be doing like keg stands or whatever. Cause I'd be like, this is getting busted and I'm going to get kicked off the baseball team or like whatever. Yeah. There was always like the ways in which things could go wrong or I've always had like a good spidey sense in that way, but I did participate like a lot of like garage stuff with like my buddies at the time or like basement stuff, like very sort of like low key stuff. I was interested in or like I was at least doing it. So that way though, I think it was good in that it's not like I went to college and all of a sudden I was going crazy or anything. Like I always like kind of had a rhythm and pace to it and didn't feel too like suffocated by my parents or anything. I think I've had like a somewhat healthy relationship with it all.
When you say kind of like the spidey sense, would you say you're someone that is street smart?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Just like you have because it sounds like because you regarding like how being empathetic to people, but it's also then understanding people.
Yeah.
Even if it was initially to deflect. Huh. Interesting. I'm trying to gauge you.
Well, I think it's that combined with knowing myself. Like I'm probably like always doing that armchair psychoanalysis on myself. So maybe it's like both of those things coming together.
I feel like we can all benefit from that though, because otherwise, what I've personally found, and it's been this way since college, I fill my time and I give myself all these responsibilities so I don't have to do that. But it's so beneficial just taking that moment. Like I keep thinking back to the break that Casey Neistat talked me into, and I'm so thankful. I'm also thankful that I came back and people were still watching.
Yeah,
but that was like kind of the big fear.
But I think it's too even in these weird jobs that we have, I think you have to be self-aware. And the more that you know yourself and understand your strengths and weaknesses, the better off that you're going to be, because, you know, especially too, like when you have that big audience and sort of everything that you do is, you know, you're like caught in that feedback loop. I think that it's important that you know yourself and you're confident in your strengths. Otherwise, you know, you can just get kind of bullied off anything that you don't really have locked on to yourself.
Do you feel like you're immune or excluded from that, kind of in the realm of you're not always the main focus?
Like, what do you mean by that?
In the sense of like when you talk about like the feedback loop and
Yeah.
like on a Hot Ones video,
Yeah.
right? A lot of most of the comments are probably about the other person, right?
Yeah, but I think that, well, yeah, but you can't exist on the internet and not,
Well, people, yeah, I mean,
and not get,
especially because like you share more of your personal life on something like an Instagram, so that's probably like a more vulnerable place for you.
yeah. And to me, like, that's why I don't participate in that much in like the social space, like whether it's like Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Like, I kind of use both of the things as like a news source for Hot Ones or like whatever is going on with what we're doing. But it's weird. Like, once I got over like 100,000 followers, I was like, there's never anything that I want to say to 100,000 people at one time. You know, or like, I don't even really want to like participate, you know, like in the thing. Like, there's so much of you that's on the internet all of the time. And then so like, if you're also like you're working on the internet, living on the internet, constantly caught up in that, I can't take that kind of noise. That's just way too loud. There's too much static. The feedback loop, it's way too much for me. That's why I was saying, like, even becoming obsessed with the process, like, to me, I used to feel such ownership over like everything we made. Like, every video that came out, I felt like, you know, like it was like a song that I knew the meaning of or whatever. And I didn't really want people, you know, like I'd be like, no, this is like what it is, or like, but you can't own anything, you know, like once it goes out, whether it sinks or swims, or like what it means or how much it matters is all up to people, you know, in entertainment. It's just like
You
our
don't
ability.
get to choose how people receive it. Yeah.
No, not at all. And so then too, there's a time where you can even feel like you're so connected with your fan base because like you know exactly who they are. And then at some point that breaks containment, and then it's like it's a mass audience at large, or it's like bigger than whatever cult fan base picked you up at first. And then all of a sudden now the messaging is coming from like people that don't know you, don't understand you, don't get anything, you know, like now you're just getting hit with like everything all the time. It's like you're just shooting free throws in a hostile environment all
Well, I was
the
going
time.
to say it kind of goes back to why sports players would be so hard to get anything done, because they're just like, this can just hurt me.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, the good thing is that, you know, just being obsessed with like the mechanics and creating this thing with Chris is that you can just dive into just making the thing, fall in love with like the process of making the thing. And then when you put it out, who cares? Who cares like what happens with that thing, as long as you're focused on making the next thing.
How, I'm trying to think of how to say it.
Which has been very helpful for me. Like that's gotten me out of like what was probably like kind of dark, you know?
It was kind of dark.
Well, like just, you know, like once that gets big, I remember, you know, like I was just get like a little like, like when even if I get like a text message or something, you know what I mean? I was like, I just don't want all this messaging from like people all the time, because like the more successful you get too is the people that work around you. The expectations are not always just from the audience all the time. Then you have this expectation to perform in a bunch of different ways, and you have to get out of your comfort zone in a bunch of different ways, and they all kind of happen at one time. So if you have like, you have to find a way to make things a little, for me, not everybody, but some way to get tunnel vision, some way to like make it all less noisy.
Do you think so? I mean, if you have that sort of mindset, do you almost end up having a hope that things never hit an even crazier level of success? Are you almost rooting against yourself a little bit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's a good question. It's like something that I think about, because I sometimes joke that I'm at the ideal level, you know, where recognizable enough to, you know, like where there's a certain perk. The guy at the guy changing the towels at the pool is like, hey, that's Sean. Hey, here's the cabana suite. Like, you need anything, you know, like that sort of thing. Like, you get this sort of favor kickback stuff. You get a lot of like love. People that come up to you on the street, they just want to say hi and take a picture or
But
whatever.
not an overwhelming swarm.
Not an overwhelming
Yeah.
swarm, or it's the people that actually know you. It's not like, oh, there's Will Smith. Like I'm not even
Sure.
watching his movies or that much of a fan, but he's that guy. You know, like
Yeah.
where you're getting people that don't even really fuck with you that much coming up to you on the street and like asking for like. So I feel like I'm at a perfect zone where I can walk the airport freely, get the kickbacks. The show is popping, and there's not that much of a drag on it. You know what I mean? So I do want to stay in that lane. But I think but all of that said, I've probably felt that way for a long time, and the more that it's grown, you know, I've never been happier with myself or more proud of the team than I was last year. So it feels like every year those things get a little bit better. So
Do you feel like, because it is, the way you're saying it is very interesting to me. If someone was like, yo, Sean, maybe they hate you. I hate you.
yeah,
Here's $20 million to go away.
Oh.
Like you stop making your stuff. It's the ultimate buyout from a negative standpoint. Do you take that?
it's interesting to me
Because
you know,
there's no noise then, right?
yeah, and there is
But no process.
yeah, there's something. There is something. Yeah, I mean, there's something nice to me about the idea of taking a lump sum, getting some condo on the Chicago River, and then living life like every day is summer vacation, and I'm 12 years old again. You know, like that. The idea of that. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, Phil, on your podcast and say that doesn't sound awesome to me.
So guys, go to my GoFundMe. We're going to raise $20 million for Sean.
Make this kid's dream come true. But that I think is me romanticizing that idea. Like ultimately, I'd get too bored and I'd be completely miserable, and I'd have to do. I like that idea that I get it and I disappear and no one hears from me again. There is a romance to that I find appealing, but I don't think I could do it.
I was like, I think I could do it if I could also then not have to deal with people like, hey, didn't you do that thing?
Yeah, because that's the other
would,
thing.
That would be the only devastating part. Because I like the idea, and it's such a weird thing. Because it's like it's a little bit of like spitting in the face of the success, but I think it's appreciating it, acknowledging it. But then there is also, I sometimes wonder about that too. If I could just be like, and I'm done.
Yeah.
If I could go away, it's appealing. I know that I was in a much better mental space while I was on my break, but I don't like. But what about if you multiply that by 12? You know, it's like, what if you're doing that for a full year? There's only so many times you can go to the fucking movie theater.
Yeah, but I've even thought about that where, you go to a movie every single day, and you review that movie on a blog that no one reads, under a pen name, and that is just your that's your mission. That's the carrot in front of you the whole time, and then you're just diving into each movie. And fully immersing yourself in cinema for an entire year, but for no reason other than just for yourself. So like make your own Squarespace or whatever, and then publish under a pen name, and don't let anyone know it's you, and just do it for yourself. And then pick up another hobby. Then maybe I have thought this out.
Well, once you said specifically condo Chicago River,
yeah,
I was like, oh, so you've thought about this?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's like, all right, once I hit this number, I'm out. I'm taking off from the internet.
I was like, so now I don't know whether I should be rooting for success of your new show or being like, it should just stay.
Well,
at this level.
but that's
maybe get a Netflix deal.
Yeah.
How many jobs do you need, Sean?
Exactly. Well, just enough to get out of it in time to enjoy that condo, you know?
Do you find it with all those jobs? I don't know if you're cool talking about it. We can.
I
cut
don't
it.
care.
How long have you been with your current girlfriend?
Like a year and a half.
And do you travel so much that it's like long distance or
Well,
not really?
actually,
Not really.
the travel is like what makes it all kind of work.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not just that, but like because
no one thought that.
It's like, oh yeah, no, it's like because she's in the same sort of space, so it's like we're often like in the same city or event or like whatever all the time because the schedules are moving in a way that, you know, brings me out to LA just as much time as I spend in New York or whatever. So I'm almost like at this point just splitting my time between the coasts so evenly that it doesn't feel like a long distance thing.
Sure. Yeah, because with that much travel, I wondered if it would be helpful.
I mean,
too.
it's definitely it's helpful
Because then it's like almost like every time you see each other, it's a date, and you're able to maintain that like
it
that
never gets
honeymoon
out.
period.
Yeah, it never gets out of that too. Plus, like, because then you're always like in cool places, different cities. So it's like it actually is a thing that I found is helpful, especially too, because then you can always just think of these things as like business trips. You know, go do the thing, accomplish the mission, and then like come back, you know, in a way that you're focused because you're like so by yourself when you're like out traveling, doing the show or whatever. And then, you know, that makes it so you can be extremely productive from a work perspective. There's not much distracting you, or like there's not, you know, it's not like we're going out to dinner tonight. I just work all night, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like once you're in that mode and then come back out here and be in like a sick ass hotel and then
it's like it sounds like,
like
one
kinda
really
nice.
long extended date.
yeah, exactly.
That's dope. Not to just go back to you quitting. If you had to do something else at this point,
I do like the line of questioning.
yes, good. I'm glad. What would you do now? Michelle Khare asked me this 2 weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to write musicals." Which I guess I was just like spot of the moment. Just said,
But
for you.
then that maybe is a thing for you. I mean,
But
it's
it's one of those things that's romanticized since I have literally no skill whatsoever in it.
but that's why I have to do this. I'd suck at every other job. You know,
Oh, okay,
I always think about that, and you probably feel like the same way. Like I don't think I'd be like a good professional. You know, like let's look at this.
Uh-oh.
This is how many unread work emails I have. Look at that number.
Oh my God. I don't feel bad anymore.
106,860 and growing. So like, and that's just me being like, I'm like this. I'm like, well,
How did we get a hold of you for this?
not through me. Not through me. Amanda, I'll tell you, it wasn't through me. You email me. That just goes into the ether.
Yeah, you're
So
106,474.
that's my whole thing. It's like I need to do this, and that's like part of the motivation and like making sure that it's successful and that it pops, because like I can't have like a normal job. But I have thought about, I used to watch this show called Campus PD like when I was in college. And it was just like hijinks and things going crazy at state universities and stuff. And I was like, I could be a campus cop where I'm just like driving around in the golf cart and like de-escalating various drunken problems or like house parties or whatever. I was always thinking that would be a fun job because it changes all the time. There's something I like about the rhythm of a school year and the way the seasons change and how like, you know, football season gives way to winter break. Like I could pace out my life in a way that, you know, I'd be like, oh, like, you know, I love the quad this time of year. You know, like there's just different ways that I feel like I would connect with the setting in a way that would make me happy. And then the other side of it is I think I'd be good at that job, this sort of like de-escalation of things that are like kind of a big deal in the town gown relations or like neighborhood or whatever, but not that big a deal because it's like keg stands and stuff. You know, like the crime that I'd be confronted with wouldn't be the sort of like soul crushing like detective work or anything. Like it would be just more drunken hijinks, I feel like. And then I do think naturally I'd be good at talking people out of the thing or like or can you go put that sign back? Can you take that traffic cone, put it back where you found it? I'd be very good at that.
It sounds like for everything you want to be right in the middle. You're like, you know, it's like almost a cop.
Yeah, no, I don't want. Yeah, exactly. I want to let the things about me that I think I do best shine without all that much responsibility.
When you're talking about your emails, and then I know that even when you were coming here, you're like, I just got in the car.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're at a point where, because like systems self put in and then like others have put in, that you're less capable of doing like just regular everyday things that you used to be able to do just several years ago?
Yeah. At this point, like you can ask Sarah Honda or like Dominique Burrows. Dominique Burrows is a producer at Hot Ones, and then Sarah Honda is a VP, and she basically runs my life and is they're both raising me like I'm like a little kid, and then they know it, so they get out ahead of like every like before I slip down the stairs or like spill the drink or whatever. They already know like all the ways in which I'm gonna mess this up. But then like the number one text message that I get from them is always like, forward to the top of your inbox, like, can you please confirm that you got this? Like everything they walk me through like I'm a little kid. And I think that, you know, I'm not sure which came first, like the baby or the babying, you know. I think probably a combination of the two. But yeah, like I could not be a functioning adult. Like I need a show to be popping and for people to puppet master my life. Like otherwise it'll go spiraling.
Yeah, I feel like it's the, if we want to call it seamlessification or the Postmatesification, just to a different level. You're like, why would I fucking do that? Someone will do it for me or nudge me the right way, and we allow it because it makes life easier. But then sometimes that person goes away, and you're like, shit.
Yeah, but
I have to schedule my own stuff.
Yeah, no, like I'd be such a night. But what I found is like this: is it's like growing up, my brother would always purposely suck at vacuuming because he didn't like vacuuming. And then rather than go through like the vacuuming fight with my brother all the time, like the responsibility of vacuuming just went to me permanently. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like that's what I do professionally is I'm like all this stuff that I don't want to do, I drag my feet through it in a way that makes it such a pain in the ass for everybody that then they just either start doing it if somebody else can do it, or they hold my hand through it and like give me treats and rewards as I go to keep me going. So I need the success of Hot Ones to keep this elaborate scheme that I'm running on everybody.
I like just like
everybody
your
just
name
takes
always,
care of my whole life.
Your name always being associated with an exhausted sigh.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But then the good thing is, and Amanda, you could probably attest, is that it's but it's like, all right, well, as long as the wave is growing and like the things are going well, it's just like you put up with it because, you know, whatever. Somebody's got to keep the lights on too, you know?
I was like, a little bit. Amanda and I sometimes just like go at it with like, no, this, but it's how we operate. Like,
and that's why you guys have been together for.
Yeah, I was like, because if we wouldn't be able to have that back and forth with other people without it being like a problem.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
an HR problem. Last question that I want to ask you. What piece of advice would you, or actually, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? It doesn't have to be work related. It can be personal.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, a lot of high school football rousing halftime speeches going through my head right now. But I think the best advice is always, you know, it's actually like, you know what I like is I like some advice my dad gave me one time. It's actually just hitting me right now where I was complaining about playing time, you know, and you expect your dad to be kind of like a shoulder you can cry on in moments like that. And he was very like, do better. You know, he's like, you think your coach who's like not getting paid anything to do this has like some crazy politically driven motive against you? Like, no, he's just volunteering his time trying to help these young adults become a better team. You know, like he's just playing whoever he thinks can like win the game or do better, you know? So like, I remember him saying that and it was like such a dose of reality. I'm not sure it was great parenting, but it was like a good dose of reality in that, you know, like nobody's to think about things in that nobody is stacking the deck against you because nobody's really even thinking about you. And the best way to get what you want accomplished is to do better than those around you. So if you did that, if you worked on it, instead of complaining here in the basement while I'm trying to get the laundry done, you went outside and smacked some balls off the tee or something, like things would probably be working out better for you. And I thought that was good advice. And then the thing that I kind of tell people, like, you know, if they, and I don't know if you have like a go-to or something when people are like, oh, Phil, like, I've been watching you. I love what you do. I want to do something like you. How did you get into it, or how did you get started in this, or whatever? And I never, because it is weird, right? When you think about how you ended up in this situation and all the weird sort of coincidences and one in a million things that had to happen just right at the right time in order for it to line up and for that rose to grow out of the concrete. But it's just like, you can't control all the things that'll happen in your life, but you will get an opportunity at some point. And if you make the most of that opportunity, you'll probably get another opportunity and another opportunity. As long as you're exceeding the expectations of whoever gave you that opportunity, you'll just keep getting them. And then once you rack up enough of those, maybe then you'll have problems that you need solved. And then you'll start giving people opportunities to solve those problems. And then if they exceed your expectations, you'll keep giving them things to solve. And it's that sort of like trickle down thing on top of there being no barriers to entry anymore. If you have a thing that you want to do, a show that you want to make, or an idea that you want to get out there, there's nothing really stopping you from doing that, or at least honing your craft, or like starting to find your voice these days. And me and Phil, we embrace the competition. So just go out there and just start making or doing whatever it is you want to do.
I love that. That's a perfect note to end on. Sean, thanks for coming here, man.
Thank you for having me. Next time on the ayahuasca.